God's original plan was always to extend his heavenly kingdom to earth. That was his original idea. Secondly, God's original plan was to influence each one of us and everything on earth with heaven's culture, and to do it through his children. God's plan was also to establish a colony of heaven on earth. It's a very simple idea. So the Bible is really not about a religion. It's not about religion. It's not about rituals. The Bible is about a government policy. It's about a kingdom with a plan to establish its colony in another place. And finally, God's plan was to colonize earth with heaven, and therefore he wanted to fill the earth with his nature, his glory. That's God's plan. Now, with that in mind, I want to pick up where we left off last week. The divine purpose of God, therefore, is a very simple one, and that is to colonize the territory of earth with the nation of heaven. I said it this way because we need to be able to understand the concepts. Forgive me for using earthly terms, but heaven is a country. It's an invisible country, but it's more real than earth. Because the Bible says that the physical universe was created by the spiritual world. And the things that are spiritual are eternal, but the things that are physical are temporal. The earth is temporary, but heaven is eternal. So the heavenlies is a more permanent country than any country on the planet. All kingdoms desire to extend their influence. The Bahamas is a result of that. Cuba is a result of that. Haiti, Guadeloupe, Martinique is a result of a kingdom that wanted to extend its influence to another territory. Brazil is a result of that. Venezuela is a result of a kingdom that wanted to extend its influence. Mexico used to be a colony of Spain. Brazil used to be a colony of Portugal. The Bahamas used to be a colony of Great Britain. Cuba used to be a colony of Spain. Haiti used to be a colony of France. All kingdoms from the early centuries had a desire to expand their influence. When their influence hit a territory, it was called colonization. Is that clear? Is everybody still with me? God is the oldest kingdom in existence. The heavens is the oldest kingdom in existence. And God is the first being that we know of who desired to extend his kingdom to another realm. So he created the new realm. He called it the physical universe. And then he chose a place in that universe, spinning around a sun with 9 planets, and he decided to put his first colony on that planet. And he wanted to do it, just a moment. He wanted to do it through his children. That's why we find in the book of Genesis chapter 1 the most powerful colonial statement. Verse 26, Genesis 1 says, "And God said, let us make man in our own image and our likeness, and let them have" what? Dominion over what? The fish of the sea, birds of the air, cattle of the field, and over all the earth, and over everything that creeps upon the ground. In other words, God's statement was, I'm creating these beings for the purpose of dominating a territory for me. In the first verse of the Bible, we find these words: in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's the first verse of the Bible. Heaven existed before earth. Earth was created by the King of Heaven as a territory to colonize. So, the statement in verse 26 is, after he made the territory, then he created the kings to rule it. And so God's desire was to colonize the territory of earth with the nation of heaven. Just like Great Britain for over 200 years colonized the English-speaking Caribbean. The nation of Great Britain, which was called the United Kingdom of Great Britain, they took over these islands, the Bahamas, they took over Barbados, they took over Guyana, they took over Jamaica, they took over Trinidad, and all of those countries, you visit them, they look just like the Bahamas. Narrow roads. They drive on the left-hand side of the street, and they drink tea. Because the purpose for colonization is to bring the nation's culture in a territory. So when God says, let us make the earth, and he made it, and then he says, now let us release the children, and they will dominate it. Why do you think Great Britain was called the Dominion of Great Britain? They didn't come here to entertain us. They came to take over us. They took away our African language and they gave us English. They took away our nakedness and put their British clothing on us. They took away our goo-goo drinks and gave us tea. In other words, when you colonize a place, the place becomes just like the nation that colonized it.